Yukari departed for the Tokyo Metropolitan Museum of Art on Saturday after school let out.
Yukari-chan.
Yeah, no, looking at your bangs, you kind of remind me of the girl in the picture, in the painting. That's the right word. Jay was waiting for her just outside it.
お待たせして申し訳ありません。いいえ、今来たところなのです。
I don't trust you. You did it. Jie shook her head.
それよりも、
Jie pointed to a bench just a stone's throw
あ
away.
の人も一緒なのですか？
Soon there was none other than Masaki.
審査の発表を見に来たかったそうです。
Today was the day the winners of the student art exhibit would be announced. Yukari didn't have any hopes of winning herself. However, she thought Chie stood a good chance.
やあ、二人とも。
Masaki got up and strolled over to Yukari and Chie after noticing them.
こんにちはです。
Chie bowed.
暇なのですね。
Wow, you.
いや、そういうわけで
She's
もな
finding
いん
like
だけど。
every opportunity to roast his ass. Masaki chuckled awkwardly.
さあ、入りましょうか。
Yukari led her companions into the museum. The fact that she had no lofty dreams of winning meant she wasn't the least bit anxious. The exhibit hall didn't feel all that different from the last time Yukari had visited. However, several of the paintings were now embellished with ribbons. Those must have been the winners. From what Yukari could tell, most of the paintings she'd liked had brought home the gold.
自分たちの結果は知らないのかい？
Masaki suddenly broke the silence with his question.
何も連絡はありませんし。私もなかったのです。
Yukari cocked her head when she saw Chie shake hers. The thought of Chie not winning baffled her. She wasn't on the voting committee, of course, but it still struck her as odd. That said, many of her other favorites had won. In that case,
ゆかりさん。
Masaki abruptly tugged on Yukari's sleeve. Yukari turned around to find him pointing at a spot in the wall. Curious, her gaze shifted that way and caught sight of her own painting, adorned with a tiny white ribbon at the top of the frame. Yeah. For a moment, she struggled to process the scene before her eyes.
入選してます。
Yukari stared at the white ribbon.
どうして私が？
評論については書かれていないけれど、しっかり見ている人はいるってことじゃないかな。
Hell yeah.
蝶の書き込みには目を見張るものがあるのです。ありがとうございます。
Yukari bowed, gratitude filling her heart. Deep down, she was reeling in shock. She hadn't seen this coming at all.
ちえちゃんはどうで？自分のはまだ見。
Jay ambled toward her painting. Yukari followed, nervous as though she were about to see her own work be judged. Masaki was right behind them. Suddenly, Chie stopped dead in her
ちえ
tracks.
ちゃん？
Chie was staring at the painting of the Virgin Mary cradling Jesus. A gold ribbon beautified the edge of the title
特
card.
選かな？
おそらく。ちえちゃん？
Yukari, uncertain how to take Chie's silence, gave her friend's face a surreptitious look. There we
よ
go.
かったです。
Chie sighed.
先生と約束していたのです。よかったですね。はい。
God, I wish you would stop whispering all the time. Chie nodded.
これで心置きなく次へ
Move
進むこと
on?
ができます。次？絵をやめてしまうのですか？
Now Yukari was starting to get worried.
そうではないのです。絵を描き続けるために。
Nah, you're starting to. You're up to some. You're up to some. I don't trust you.
そうですか。
Though Yukari herself had no concrete plans for her own future, it relieved her to hear that Chie would still be painting.
頑張ってくださいね、ちえちゃん。ゆかりちゃんもなのです。
Yukari nodded after a moment's hesitation.
二人とも入選したのだから、ちょっとしたお祝いをしようか。
Masaki smiled as he made the suggestion.
では、銀座でディナーをお願いするのです。
あ、
Masaki winced. Yukari shook her head and decided to step in and save
世
him.
界へ参りましょう。京子さんでしたら美味しいものも作ってくださいますから。それがいいのです。
Chie nodded.
悪いね。
いいえ、兄さんの様子を見ていれば。
She was about to get on her brother's case for working in such an unlucrative profession. However, perhaps he did need to improve as an employer. Though, obviously, Yukari was aware he was in no state to contemplate any of that at the moment.
あら、いらっしゃい。こんにちは、京子さん。何か食べられるものを用意できますか？そうね。
いただき物のお蕎麦があるけど、それでもいいかしら。
お蕎麦ですか。
That was the last thing one would expect to find in a cafe. However, it sounded positively homey and lovely all the same.
お願いできますか。
ええ、薬味はネギくらいしかないけれどね。
With that settled, Yukari and Masaki and Chie all sat at a table.
はい、どうぞ。
Kyoko poured the three of them their mugs of piping hot coffee.
ありがとうございます。
Once that was out of the way, she began boiling the soba.
それじゃあ改めて今日はおめでとう。
ありがとうございます。
Chie
あ
bowed.
りがとうございます。
ゆかりちゃんもお疲れ様でした。
God damn, you annoy the fuck out of me. It's not just because I'm suspicious of her either, it's just that constant whispering. I'm sure that was the direction the voice director wanted them to go with it, so like obviously, but ugh. Honestly, I hope she's evil. I hope she's some kind of antagonist. I want her to snap and like actually be loud, and like actually talk, and actually put some, and be like, ah, not just. The whispering is starting to get to me, man.
いえ、私は何も。
Bullshit.
君は入選していたじゃないか。
You got a ribbon?
入選、結構な人数がいたようですから。
Yeah, okay. They can celebrate too. Yukari said that without even the slightest hint of
そ
modesty.
れでも、いい思い出になりました。
She truly meant that too. The three of them made chit-chat until Kyoko finally returned with bowls on a tray.
お待たせしました。
Steaming soba sat within. All three were garnished with diced onions all over.
うまそうですね。
Masuki wasted no time digging
いただ
in.
きます。
The sight of two girls and a grown man eating soba in a cafe together could have set a new precedent for the word surreal. But unfortunately for historians the world round, no one was there to witness such a legendary event. Instead, the dinner passed mostly in silence, accompanied only by soft music and the slurping of noodles.
そういえば、ゆかりちゃん、
どうかしましたか。
Yukari stopped scooping her soba and turned to Chie.
何か悩みがあるのですか？
そんなことありませんよ。
Nope, I don't think so. I love Yukari. Yukari cocked her head. I hope she buys it.
そうですか。
Fortunately, Chie pressed no further. Yukari couldn't tell whether her old friend had believed her or seen right through her, though. She furtively stole a glance at Masaki. This man's just like, food. He'd already finished, perhaps because his portion had been rather small for a man of his age and size. Yukari was about to offer him some of hers in case he was still hungry, oh my god. But then suddenly spotted
ま
something.
さきさん、袖に。
つゆが飛んだのかな。
Dark stain had formed on Masaki's sleeve.
こすらないで。
ええ、どうしたの？
Kyoko came over with a towel in hand, quizzically, but quickly noticed the blemish on Masaki's sleeve.
あら、大変。
Yukari held down the opposite end of Masaki's sleeve gently and scrubbed the blemish with a towel.
そこまでしてもらわなくても。
まさきさんは着替えをあまり持ってないではありませんか。
He'd been in a tight spot if he couldn't wear it ever again, considering his lack of funds.
まあそうだけど。
Yukari scrubbed the stain over and over until it was barely visible. Thankfully, a simple laundry cycle was all that'd be necessary to get rid of it for good.
やっぱりそうですか。
Shut up.
はい。
Yukari looked up. She had donned a smile that reached her eyes.
なんでもないのです。
は
Yukari was absolutely clueless as to what smile signified. Okay, back to evil. All right. What's going on? Chie? Moonlight broke through the curtains, beautifully accentuating the massive pale skin strewn across the floor. Are you Chie or are you Sei? Can I press space to see the... Nope. Okay. I was like... Because it almost kind of looks like Sei's like turtleneck she wears. The light was brilliant and keen, like a polished blade sharp enough to tear hearts asunder. However, no pain resounded in the breast of the sole source of life in this room. Naturally, for pain was a companion that had been lost at some point, now forgotten. Failure is not an option here. A failure cannot be suffered. A failure cannot be tolerated. Now when there was but a single chance to succeed. Slender fingers caressed the beautiful protrusion on the woman's pale back. Soft touch shortly replaced thereafter by a tender kiss. Oh, how lovely. Now is the hour in which your false skin will be shed, and you shall become a real angel. You may have been deprived of God's blessing in your time on this earth, but henceforth you shall shine as you have never before, fallen angel. O Lord, shower her with your love and grace. Prayer to the heavens was consecrated, and all attention was subsequently cast on the deceased woman. I shall make her as beautiful as the winged victory of Samothrace. Tools will be necessary in order to transform her into the genuine article. Okay, we're back to dismemberment, baby. Not just any tools. Tools carefully selected in order to transform her into the genuine article. For no compromises could be allowed in order to transform her into the genuine article. Okay, you can stop saying genuine article, I get it. To grant her the appearance of a sham would have been beyond the pale. A honed knife, a honed chisel, a fine-tooth rasp, a coarse rasp, powder, and clay. Those are all the tools required to transform her into the genuine article. Without further ado, the knife was plunged into the woman's arm to turn her into the genuine article. The virgin sensation of carving flesh rattled the fingers snaked around the handle. Eventually, a sanguine cut surface was formed, exposing sinew, perfect for the genuine article. No, it's more beautiful than I ever could have imagined. Truly, a genuine article. Work continued slowly and cautiously so as not to damage her skin itself, as that would not create a genuine article. Fortunately, the task produced hardly any blood, seeing as it had already been hours since death. I never knew blood could be so alluring. The sight of it evoked melted rubies. What? It dripped to the floor. Oh, okay. Forming a puddle beneath. So lovely. So beautiful. So genuine. Overwhelming lament accompanied the reminder that the hand behind the knife couldn't afford to leave any personal traces, as would not create a genuine article. That went for any other vestiges too. Thus, the unnecessary portions were promptly disposed of, revealing a marble white lump. A truly genuine article. Look at that splendid humerus. So alabaster and brilliant. So, I'm assuming this is that Say woman. Right. Because she has, like, the black turtleneck. But someone else is the one that... Our true murderer, right, is the person who, I believe, ran away from the exhibit. Right? Oh. And they did mention something about betrayal, right? Could it be the owner she works for? Because he said he'd been betrayed, so if he sees a Shinzo Mamiya piece, right? And if Sei had been the model for it, he could see it as a betrayal, potentially. But also it seems like, well, I don't know. It's too early to be calling shots on who the killer is, but you know. A gentle caress was offered up to it, followed by the sound of the coarse rasp commencing its duty. Jesus fuck. What the fuck is a rasp? It's a file. It's a file. Okay. So I was like, what the fuck is that noise? It's a wood file. Essentially. Gotcha. Vibrations produced by the sculpting of the humerus composed a gratifying rhythm to the brain. Okay, so now that he's cut off the limb, he's filing down the bone. Gotcha. An instinctual intoxication with that sensation supplemented the work being taken to shave down the bone meticulously. Lovingly. Genuinely. Artically. and slowly, so as not to leave a scratch, as would not create a genuine article. The coarse rasp was eventually swapped out for the fine-toothed one to sculpt this work into a masterpiece. Ah! God, those sound effects, man. For it was imperative, above all else, that she be beautiful. Otherwise, she could not achieve the genuine article. The humorous on the opposing side was also cut and shaved down in a similar fashion. Next came the holiest and grandest task of them all. This was what would make or break the whole piece, the key to transforming her into a real angel. The woman's corpse was lifted and stripped of all clothing. Her enchanting back was now exposed to the world at large. Its ivory skin and lack of excess fat accentuated her scapulae, morphing her into a work of beauty, a true, genuine article. A sham could never attain such perfection. No, this could only be a genuine article. The genuine article truly is in a class of its own. A chisel was driven toward the scapula from beneath the body's shoulder. Nope. Okay, you can stop. 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 That is enough. That is enough. Dear God, it just keeps going. Like, it's not a looping sound either. It's one long continuous sound. Holy shit. God damn. Its edge dug into her flesh, producing drops of murky blood. Oh, wow. Oh, wow. The woman's flesh was hewn away while her scapulae were carefully resculpted, little by little, as to emphasize them. He's completely stripped the skin and muscle off of, like, the shoulder blades. Like, I figure, like, he was gonna, like, attach wings, right? He was gonna make her into the angel. I don't know, like, how big the bases of those wings are, but god damn. Homie cut away a large area. Each and every muscle fiber was scraped off conscientiously and lovingly. Not so much as a single scrap of meat was allowed to remain on the scapulae. Is that what the shoulder blades are called? The fucking scapulae? The scapulae, commonly known as shoulder blades, are two triangular-shaped bones. Yeah, okay. Yes. The longer work dragged on, the more they resembled angel wings. Are you not going to put actual wings on there? Simply stunning. Not the world has ever known a corpse as beautiful as this. The woman's exposed scapulae were, oh my god, were carefully carved down and recrafted into works of art. So you cut away this chunk of her skin so you can then remove the shoulder blade, or at least show off the shoulder blade, and then sculpt the shoulder blade into something else? Christ. Almost done. Just a little more and she'll be a real angel. A true, genuine article. Clay was then applied to the reworked scapulae, hardening as it was matched to the shape of the bone. Right, I forgot there was clay involved. That was part of their tool list, right. So they pull... Okay, oh god damn, that's making my fucking back tense up. I don't like it. So they cut out the area around the shoulder blades, pulled out the shoulder blades, filed them down to a certain shape, and then they're gonna what? Build out the wings with clay? No fingerprints were left behind, of course. Gloves had been donned to prevent a careless blunder like that. The clay was then firmly molded into the proper shape. Now a base will be needed to make her into a real angel. And so, more clay was affixed to the completed bases. The longer work dragged on, the more they resembled angel wings. There. Now she's a real angel. Powder was applied to the woman's skin. Makeup was also used to conceal her pallid cheeks. Perhaps I should add some red. That way she'll look even more beautiful. God damn. Anyway, the next day. Oh, Reggie, were you looking for work, bud? 'Cause I think work's calling you, bud. I woke to the phone screeching in the living room. Today was Sunday, so Yukari would probably get it. See? Like clockwork.
兄さん お電話です。
んああ、
So much for catching a few extra Z's.
誰からだ？
Yaginuma. Got to my feet and rubbed the sleep out of my eyes.
警視庁の八木沼さんです。
Yup.
あいつか。
That sobered my brain faster than a cold bucket of water. Has there been a new development in the search, or...
もしもし。
先輩、事件です。
お前がかけてくるのはそれ以外ないだろうが。
いいえ、おそらく別件です。
だったら俺じゃなくてもいいだろ
I don't have the time or headspace to deal with any other cases at the moment.
僕もそう思っていますよ。ですが状況がそれを許さないんです。
う。どういうことだ？
先日、先輩は絵画を発見しましたね。
Yeah, they sure gave it a grim name, huh? Of course I remembered. It wasn't every day you stumble across a new painting from a deceased
あ
artist.
あ、それが何か？
The image of the armless angel from the painting flashed through my
気
mind.
づいたようですね。見立て殺人ですよ。
A murder modeled on one of Shinzo Mamiya's works of art. It was like the girl in Shell murders all over again.
どこに行けばいい？
まずは本庁へ来てください。
わかった。
I went back to my room and started getting ready.
兄さん、
Yukari poked her head through the door.
ちょっと出てくる。
Kinda.
正木さんには知らせないのですか？
あいつは別件で動いてもらっているからな。
Masuki was currently focused on finding Naoto Kuroya. And that was an investigation both of us wanted to see through from start to finish. Though whether Masuki would actually turn up anything was another story.
じゃ、行ってくる。
ええ、お気をつけて。
Can't promise that one. I drove over to the MPD and visited CID Section 1.
遅いですよ、先輩。
Stuff it.
道が混んでたんだよ。
現在、
The
捜
traffic
査員が
was
先行して
murder. Oh,
現状
Reggie,
保
you
存および
guard.
住人の聞き取りなどを行っています。
そうか。で、見立て殺人というのは間違いないのか？
僕はその絵を直接見たわけではありませんから断定はできません。ただ、その絵が発見された直後ですからね。
そうか。
では行きましょうか。
Yaginuma and I took a squad car down to an apartment complex. Though it seemed ordinary at first glance, a battalion of police officers had encircled the premises to keep any and all onlookers away.
他の住人は住んでいるのか？
ええ、聞き込みによると、ここ数日、不審な物音などはしていなかったそうです。
第一発見者は？
被害者の雇用主で、出勤してこないことを不審に思って訪ねてきたそうです。
それだけ聞けばおかしなところはないな。
現在所轄で事情聴取を行っています。
Yaginuma headed for the apartment that served as the scene of the crime. You didn't have to see the body to know what was in store for me. Yeah. What if it really is exactly the same as that painting?
遅いお月ですな、ヤギ沼はん。
That's me, the coroner for this case, emerged from the apartment.
どうも、夏目さん。
おや、時坂はん。もう大丈夫なんです。
ええ、引きこもっているわけにもいきませんからね。
She was probably concerned about me after last month's case.
そうですか。まあ、今回のも関わりがないわけとちゃいますやろからな。
やはり見立てですか？
うちは絵の方を知りませんさかい、なんとも言えまへんけどな。
妙？
まあ、見ながら説明しましょう。
That's why I slipped right back into the apartment. Just come take a look at it. Man, I'd really rather not. It's one thing to see it in a painting, but... A fetid stench swept over me. It was the reek of a corpse, along with another familiar smell. Feet. The scent of oil paints mixed together. Her countenance was voided of all emotion. Two bizarrely beautiful objets d'art protruded from her back. Now, I can probably guess what objet d'art fucking translates to, but I'm gonna look it up. Camera flashes illuminated her body, almost as if it were a statue on display. Yep, and that is exactly the painting we saw. Yes, sirree. You can quit panning down. Okay, cool. You're not under the text box, which means I can censor you without having to type the text back in myself. Awesome. Now, even though I'm sure I could piece together what the hell is objet. Small decorative or artistic object, typically when regarded as a collectible item. Okay, I don't think that's the case, but a small decorative or artistic object. Honestly, they don't look that small either. That fucking right wing looks fucking like bigger than her torso. But well, it says small or artistic, and it is very much artistic, I guess. An armless angel with only one complete wing. Though I'd known what I was in for, the sight still paralyzed me, rooting me to the spot. Reminded me of the girl and shell statue I'd seen made from Misa Nakahara's body. Only one person I knew could have made this, but he was no longer capable of such acts, and never would be again. That is the question.
被害者は前園静香、いや、聖と読むのか。この部屋の借り主です。
Yeah, say Maizona. Okay. Kind of figured. Also, because earlier what I was saying before, when I was like, when I read the synopsis, from what I had originally remembered, I thought the synopsis said that, like, someone close to Masuki ends up being the first victim, right? There's an incident and someone close to Masuki is, like, the first victim. But then as I was recording, I looked at the synopsis again, like, when, you know, we first encountered Sei, and it's like, when a former co-worker of Masuki's ends up in a bizarre accident, I'm like, oh, okay, I already know her fate then. Gotcha. I'm like, there's been no one else we could possibly think of as a former co-worker to Masuki other than Reiji himself, and clearly it wouldn't be Reiji. Yaginuma flipped through his documents.
都内の画廊に勤務。第一発見者はそこの店主の笹倉啓太という男です。
なるほど。道理で。
Certainly explained all the art supplies in the
ほ
room.
な、始めますえ。気になるとこがあったら言うてくださいな。
Time to investigate. Donned a pair of white gloves and offered the body a silent prayer. Investigation. Wing.
これが天罰に似せたとされる根拠ですね。
Giant wings were sticking out of the body's back, much like the painting. One of them had been made to look either short or in the midst of unfurling. Clay embedded with thin bamboo strips imitating a skeletal frame had been heaped onto their bases. Furthermore, the clay was also covering her scapulae. There were no clear gap between the clay and her skin, possibly indicating that the skin had been planed as well. What appeared to be a bona fide feathers were also glued to the bamboo strips. All in all, her entire body had been made to resemble an angel's. So much so, in fact, that I could have sworn that the girl from Exile of Paradise had sprung out of the painting itself.
わざわざ肩甲骨を削って粘土を貼り付けてるようですわ。土台はしっかりしとった方が型崩れしないのは確かでしょうが。
紙粘土ですかね。
解剖医のお仕事じゃありまへんな。ま、専門家に聞いておきます。
Whoever our killer was, they'd gone to a ton of effort in setting this up, that was for sure. Face. The victim's face was lathered in white powder, like a corpse made for the funeral.
顔に加工された様子はありませんね。
そうですな。
There weren't any notable cuts, as far as I could tell. The murderer had gone to the effort of sprucing up the body's lips with lipstick.
この人が住人の前園せいで間違いないんですね。
第一発見者の雇用主が
Yaginuma quickly provided an answer.
後で歯型の照合やなんやで確定させます。
In other words, they couldn't officially confirm it just yet, but it was all but certain. Chest. The body was seated on a stand in covered red cloth. It was an element I could only presume had been added to make this site a perfect match for the canvas of Exile of Paradise.
死因は分かっているんですか。
それは解剖待ちですわ。見たところ大きな外傷もありまへんからな。
True. She had no notable wounds apart from her severed
毒
arms.
殺の可能性もありそうですね。
そうですな。後で調べておきます。
Legs. The corpse's legs were spotless. Not only that, but her toenails had also been meticulously pedicured. Her toes were a bit long, but nothing stood out apart from that. Canvas? A plethora of art supplies canvassed the
被
room.
害者は絵描きか。
違うそうですよ。絵画修復師。
そうか。
That had also been Misa Nakahara's profession before she was turned into Girl in Shell. It sure was ironic, though I wanted to believe it was merely an unfortunate coincidence rather than some trick of fate. Curtain. I can't click on the curtain? Okay. Dresser. Or cabinet, whatever. I opened the cabinet by the wall with the utmost caution, but there was nothing but paints inside. Though it looked a bit disorganized, I doubt they had anything to do with the murder. Canvases. An art restorer, huh? Blood. A puddle of blood was splattered across the floor, possibly from when the victim's arms were hacked
こ
off.
ぼれた血液の量から考えても生前に切断したとは考えられまへん。
ここで切断したのは確かですか？
血だまりの中にも骨の削りカスが落ちてますから。
Apart from that, there was nothing unusual about the floor surrounding the corpse. Book? No, it's just more about an art restorer. Okay. Stool. Thing she's sitting on. Victim had clearly taken quite good care of her legs and feet. No visible damage apart from her severed arms and altered scapulae. Okay. Tiny wing. Angel wings were affixed to her scapulae. Okay. Victim's ID was apparently being confirmed by the one who found her body. Only paints. We're not certain the victim's eyes all but certainly been amputated in this apartment. Droplets of blood formed a trail leading away from the puddle.
何かありましたか？
Ignum was shuffled over to
血
me,
痕が途切れている。
and a rather unnatural one at
こ
that.
こに何かがあったようですね。
なんだろ
Oh.
うな。何らかの品物だとは思うんだが。
Considering the killer had all but certainly stolen away the victim's arms, the notion that they'd taken something else with them as well definitely wasn't out of the question. Oh, interesting. Something was taken from the scene of the crime. Let's see. Well, it's all about I have the option to click on. I've clicked on everything twice just to make sure. So I'm going to go ahead and make an investigation. What do you mean it doesn't feel like you're done yet? What else do I need to click on? Something's been taken from the scene of the crime. Art restorer. Art restorer. Click on all these objects over here. Art restorer, huh? What about click on the canvas again? I click on the stool. She's an art restorer. Huh? Let's click on the easel. She's an art restorer, huh? Let's click on the canvases over here. Art restorer, huh? Let's click on the top of this shelf. Can't click anything. Click on the cabinet itself. Only paints. Click on this basket next to it. Nothing. Click on the fucking blood stain. We've already seen that. Click on the gap in the fucking thing. Oh, you've already seen that. I sure have. Click on her body again. Scapulae. Click on her legs again. Oh, our victim clearly took good care of them. Let's click on her feet just to be safe. Yeah, click on the coochie. It's gonna be like arms and scapulae. It's just gonna count that as that click. Click on her face. Nothing new. Nothing new. Click on the stump. Is it the arms? Both arms have been partially
切断
severed.
された
Oh my
俺は発
god.
見されていますか？
I figured clicking on the body as a whole would also include the arms. But I guess I need to click on the arms just to be sure.
この部屋からは見つかってまへん？
So the killer took them, or the murder happened somewhere else entirely.
切断面の生活反応は調べましたか？
生活反応はありまへんでした。ああ、あと妙なとこがありましてな。
Huh? Why the hell would they do that?
お肉の部分は包丁で切ってると思うんですけど、骨はノコでもないと切れまへんからな。
ノコギリで切断した後、わざわざヤスリで整えたんですか？
Well, yeah, it has to be the genuine article at AG.
もしくはノコがなくて最初からヤスリでやったのかもしれませんな。
Christ.
遺体にこんな加工をしている時点で計画的な犯行だと断言できます。
Yaginuma was absolutely right. In that case, had the killer's saw broken or something? Or they never planned on using one to begin
まあ
with?
お部屋の中にノコもヤスリも落ちてまへんからな。
Maybe they'd taken the arms to hide something. Or was it possible they tried going the extra mile to resemble the painting as much as possible? Whatever the reason, this seemed worth keeping in mind. Let me click on it again. The Arms Code Services had neatly filed. Okay. Now can I end the investigation? I'd probably done just about everything I could. Yeah, I kind of feel that way.
ほな、運び出します
Take her away, boys. Yaginuma, Natsume, and I left as forensic officers filed into the apartment. I took a deep breath once we were outside.
どう思いますか？
まだ何とも言えねえよ。
死因と身元は早めに割り出します
よろしくお願いします。
こちらは第一発見者の雇用主に話を聞くことにします。
Of course.
そうだな。
Though the landlord had also been there when the body was found, her boss was definitely the prime suspect.
先輩は天罰の絵の方から調べてもらえますか？
ああ、わかった。
In all honesty, I wasn't really in the mood to get involved. But I also knew I was probably the best person for the job. The day was the 16th. The murder likely happened yesterday on the 15th. Meanwhile, the painting went public on the 13th. So someone had become obsessed with that painting and jumped straight to murder in just 2 days? The time frame was far too short no matter how you spun it. Then again, maybe we were up against someone who didn't subscribe to that brand of common sense. If anything, it was more reasonable to assume our killer was a psycho with a few screws loose. The question was, just how much overlap was there between them and the criminals I'd faced in the past? I'm going to imagine a surprising amount of overlap, honestly. Curious as I was, there was no way of telling at this stage. February 17th. Why do they always tell me the moon's age? I don't know if they did that in the first game, but I remember it. They definitely did it a lot in the second game, and I thought that was going to like mean something at some point. And as far as I know, as far as I remember anyway, it didn't. And then again, yeah, for the third game, once again it's there. I'm guessing it was just a thing that was part of the original release, and they were just like, yeah, we gotta work it in there. But even then, it's like, why was it part of the original release? Why did they bother telling us the moon's age? Why was that important? Masuki woke up Monday morning to the sound of someone entering the agency.
なんだ、まだ寝てたのか。
Irritated Reiji was glaring down at him. Masuki hastily leaped to his feet.
おはようございます。
ああ、
Reiji apathetically brushed him aside and plopped down on the sofa.
何かあったんですか？
殺しだ。今のところ黒谷直りの件とは無関係だろうがな。
Reiji tossed him a newspaper.
じゃあなんで仕事を受けたんで？
Masuki swallowed his words as soon as he saw the paper. Though the article on the murder didn't contain many details, it did list the name of the victim, Sei Maizono.
稼がないと生活ができねえからな。
Reiji stopped pontificating when he noticed how dazed Masuki looked.
この前園さんって自分の知り合いでした。
なんだって？
Reiji bolted to his feet.
去年の件で捕まるまで一緒に働いていたんです。
おいおい、なんてこった。じゃあ店主の笹倉啓太も知っているのか？
ええ、まあ。
まだそうと決まったわけじゃねえよ。
Reiji sat back down and furrowed his brow in contemplation. Masuki looked over the paper in the meantime. According to the article, Sei Maizono was murdered at her apartment and subsequently discovered by Sasakura when he went to check why she hadn't shown up to work. However, there were no details about any suspects, simply the standard spiel of how the police were carefully investigating the matter. Are they hiding that information, or do they still not know?
まさき、笹倉という男はどんなやつだ？
普通の人ですよ。自分より少し年上で絵の才能はないと自分でもよく言っていました。
True.
それでも絵は好きでこの仕事をしていたそうです。
前園生との関係はどうだ？
どうと言われても自分にはよくわかりませんよ。彼女は海外研修に出ていて。
まあお前に聞くだけ間違いだったか。
Reiji sighed.
これから捜査ですか？
Reiji held out his hand just as Masuki started rising to his feet.
お前にはまずすることがあるだろう。
17日の月曜日。
He'd forgotten he had an appointment at the hospital in a few hours.
まずそっちを済ませてこい。今日のことも先生に説明するんだぞ。
今日のこと？
お前、知り合いが殺されたと聞いてもあまり動揺していないこと
そんなことはないはずです。
No, I'm plenty phased. I'm quite phased, actually. Who are you to question the status of my phasing? No, he's right. Now that Eiji pointed it out, he finally realized it. Though their acquaintanceship hadn't lasted long, he'd still been on speaking terms with her as recently as a few days ago. As such, he should have felt something at the revelation she was gone forever, yet his heart remained unmoved.
まあ探偵として冷静な判断を下す上では必要なことかもしれないが。
I mean, don't act like you're a paragon of that, Reiji. Keeping your cool under any turn of events is laudable. What about keeping my cool? It's like, oh yeah? How'd you keep your cool when they found Toko's body? I'm sure you didn't drop to your knees and scream at the sky or anything, right? You kept your emotions in check? Never really lashed out at anyone in the past, huh? Is Tokisaka actually trying to cheer me up?
病院に行ってきます。
Muskie got off the sofa. It's a good thing that this news hasn't shaken me. No, I'm sure it's not. After all, this is a problem that had likely been hounding him ever since he'd started living life as Tomoki Masaki. The closer he got to the hospital, the less enthusiasm drove Masaki's legs forward, not that there'd been all that much to begin with. Still, he had an appointment to keep, so he needed to show his face. Masaki stepped up to the receptionist, weaving his way through the patients waiting to be called. Showed his patient ID and headed for the psych ward. There weren't many others around, though perhaps that was cause for celebration considering the nature of the ward. Masaki pondered such matters as he sat idly on a bench. Michiru was nowhere to be found. Not that she was supposed to be about talking with outpatients to begin with, but she still had a knack for showing up when Masaki least expected it, regardless. In any case, Masaki was having trouble getting his thoughts straight in this place without her or anyone else around to anchor him. Perhaps staying away from this place does more favors for my sanity instead.
まさきさん、お待たせいたしました。
Masaki rose to his feet after a nurse hailed him.
失礼します。
そこにかけたまえ。
Masaki promptly helped himself to the sofa at Kaede's urging.
その後、どうかね。
どうもこうも。
それはそうだろうね。
Kaede flashed a mischievous smile. God, I'd let her work her magic on me. Swear, coming to see her only sends me into downward spirals. I don't know, I'm going upward. I mean,
お
what?
よそ2週間か。自分の中で何か変えてみようと思ったことはあるかね。
仕事に対してしっかりと打ち込もうと考えるようになります。
成果は？
出るようであれば苦労はありませんよ。
Muskie knew there was no way he'd track down Naoto so easily.
それは諦めないで続けることだね。
Kaede smiled. Yes.
先生は諦めなければ努力は必ず報われると考えていますか？
そんな都合のいいことはないよ。
Kaede snorted.
ただ、努力に報いるためには諦めないことが必要なのは確かだね。
それは分かっています。
He wasn't planning on throwing in the towel that easily.
それはよかった。
Kaede nodded.
前回の診察の時、感情の動きが分かりづらいと言ってましたよね。
うん。誰か親しい人でも亡くなったの？
なぜそれ？
他に考えようがないからさ。
It made sense considering Masaki's noted dearth of emotions.
そう親しいというわけでもなかったんです。それでもつい先日まで会って。
そういうものなのだから仕方ないさ。君自身に悔やむ気持ちがないわけではないのだろう。
それはもちろん。
Is that really true, though? Perhaps that was indeed the case, and he was simply deluding himself into believing otherwise. Maybe he only knew it'd be right to feel that way because that would be the human response. Suddenly, Masaki's train of thought was derailed by the sound of clapping, startling him out of his trance. Kaede was leaning forward, staring him down.
思考に飲まれすぎだよ。うちに入り込むのは良くない。
Into your what?
はい。
君自身を分析してはいけない。
え？
君のようにうつ傾向にある人は特にね。そもそも自己診断なんてのは当てにならないものだよ。
Kaede chuckled to herself. Was that her idea of a joke?
いや、すまない。しかし、私が今言ったことは本当だよ。
わかりました。
He had no choice but to agree with her there.
そうだな。日記を書いてみようか。
日記
Masaki hadn't been expecting a suggestion like that.
気構える必要はないさ。 その日あったことを書いていく本当にただの日記だよ。
何か意味があるんですか？
意味のないことを勧めはしないさ。これは治療だよ。
はあ。
He had nothing to lose from at least giving it a shot.
人に見せる必要も私に内容を報告する必要もないから安心するといい。
わかりました。
Masaki nodded, though he doubted he'd write much he wouldn't want others to see, if he wrote anything at all.